You mentioned Garland. Let's take a listen to how he was questioned in his response today.
There's been so much criticism of the Justice Department around the January 6th investigation, and a lot of people trying to pressure the department to either work faster or even to investigate specific individuals. How would you respond to that pressure and to those critics?
Look, the only pressure I feel, and the only pressure that our line prosecutors feel, is to do the right thing. That means we follow the facts and the law wherever they may lead.
That's the latest response. It's a reminder, Jill, that he's certainly aware of this. He didn't say, oh, what are you talking about? He took it as a factual premise that people are demanding more from him based on the evidence or whatever their views are. Do you see this evidence adding to the case for a criminal approach to the thwarted coup?
This is a very important piece of evidence, and criminal cases are built, as you just said, by putting pieces of a puzzle together, and each one adds to the other, and you cross-check them. And you've had Peter Navarro on admitting on your show that he had done what you described as plan a coup, and everybody would conclude that. So, yes, this does add to the pressure. It certainly adds to the pressure of holding in contempt Peter Navarro for not cooperating, because it shows a really good reason why he has key information about what the president knew and when did he know it and what was his role in it beyond just knowing about it. What did he do? He spoke to that group according to that text message. So it is very, very damaging to the president and very damaging to the lack of action. I've been in that group that has said justice delayed is justice denied, and that the Department of Justice needs to act faster. I'm very encouraged by the recent revelation that there are over 100 more prosecutors being hired, and that the scope of the investigation in the federal grand jury in D.C. is expanded beyond the people who broke into the Capitol to those who planned and funded it. Those are good things that make me feel a little more comfortable about my beloved Department of Justice doing the right thing and doing, as Merrick Garland just said in that clip, following the law and the facts to wherever they lead. And they seem to be leading at every aspect to President Trump.
Well, and that's so important because, Michael, there can be a possible, or call it charitable case, where two different things happened. Where people over here were saying, let's exhaust all legal remedies to challenge the election. And then people over here were saying, let's plan an attack to breach the Capitol. It's possible. I spoke to a rally organizer last night who says she condemns the violence and says she wasn't involved, and there's no evidence that she breached it. Although people might disagree with the way she was exercising her speech, she's got the right to speech. But there's more and more evidence that seems to link some of this together when you look at the rhetoric, the nature of the way people were called to town, and then the fact that you got people like Navarro saying, yeah, a bunch of legislators were in on this. Our own colleague Joy Reid has the big interview of the week, the newsworthy interview with Kamala Harris. They've taped it. It's going to air tonight. So I think it's interesting. It sounds like a plug, but I'm going to be watching it. But here's the one excerpt we have that relates to all this and whether political elites or electeds have to be held accountable. Take a look.
What do you think should be the consequences for people like Ted Cruz, people like Josh Hawley, who are now being named as we learn more about those who were actually putting together the plan to overthrow our election?
There should be accountability. In terms of elected leaders, to the extent that they were complicit in a crime, of course, there should be some kind of response to that. But also there should be, I think, a continuing discussion about the fact that what happened on January 6th was a concerted attempt to undermine the integrity of our elections system.
Michael.
No, I mean, the vice president is right on the latter point. The problem is the former point, accountability. It has been the problem from the very beginning of the Trump administration. There has been very little accountability for all the nonsense that we have witnessed over the last 5 or 6 years. And it is all culminated, Ari, on January 6th in such a horrific way. So if, to the vice president's point, if there are members of the United States House or Senate who in some way or other, either earlier on, during, or after the fact, were involved in this nightmare, yeah, they need to be known first off, and then the appropriate remedy, which is accountability and maybe prosecution, has to be a big part of the conversation. My sense, though, in this town right now, and you get this a lot when you talk to folks quietly, whether it's about the Justice Department or the politics, is that, well, we don't want to stir the pot. We don't know where this is going to go. Well, damn it, I know where it should go. I watched people try to overthrow my government. And as a citizen, I'm bothered by that there's not enough concern by those members who aren't on the January 6th committee to get to the bottom of this. So it's, I think it becomes really, really important, to your point about, yes, there's the legal piece and there is this other piece. What we've seen, Ari, is that they've converged. Yeah. Trump converged them. The legitimate effort to challenge the election, okay, legitimate. We've seen that in prior elections. But then this other very sort of gnarly, nasty little thing called insurrection, and how they use the first piece to layer on the next piece. And that's where they're going to get tripped up.
And there's no guarantee that this is a one-off. You know, when everyone says, oh, some people wrongly, blithely said it's not who we are. Well, it was who we were that day. And it was who we were the days after as the Republican Party came around to defending it. And it may be who we are again if it's not punished. When we asked Peter Navarro about this in the interview, Jill, I'm not going to play the whole piece because I'm running out of time, but he didn't want to answer. I said, what was the plan? Who was in on it? Was Trump in on it? He said, sure, and then went on to kind of dodge into other areas. What does it tell you that even the people doing it for Trump, sort of like Michael Cohen 1.0, not the 2.0 version, want to play along with the denials and give the boss that cover?
That's one of the most inexplicable parts of Donald Trump's presidency, is the loyalty from people who are willing to conceal for him, to cover up for him, when he's perfectly willing to throw anyone under the bus who even deviates slightly from supporting him. And so that's obviously of concern, but eventually, as I said, you take all the pieces of the puzzle and you put them together, and you will see not only that it happened way before January 6th, but that it's continuing today. There is an ongoing threat to democracy. There are ongoing lies. The statements about a stolen election, which has been disproved in every venue that it has been presented, every court that's looked at it has thrown it out. And yet millions of Donald Trump followers believe it. Yeah,
and that goes to the future risk if they really believe it and want to act on it again. Jill and Michael, thank you.